Welcome back into Call It a Night. I'm JSB, and now I am joined by former NFL player, current NFL and college football analyst for Fox, CBS Sports HQ, and SiriusXM, Brady Quinn. Also my good friend. We worked at Fox together back in the heyday.
Yeah.
Feel really old saying that now, I guess. But you're here. Whatever.
We're getting old.
We're getting old. Time is going by. But speaking of when you were younger, you played for a bunch of different teams.
Yep.
One of them being the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And
not a good year, but we did play there for a year. Yeah.
You did. And I mean, like you were in the city, you were sort of around that fan base. Now that they're here with a chance to do something that they haven't done in 50 years, what's that like for all of us who don't know that scene?
Yeah, we were probably there at the bottom of maybe one of the lowest points of that organization. You know, the Hunt family is an incredible family, obviously a long history with Lamar, and really the NFL being what it is today, like wouldn't without Lamar. Mm-hmm. And so just from being there and being a part of like a really low point, understanding, just how far we needed to build to go back up. And I had a couple injuries in the end of the season, so I got to come back, talk with Coach Reed, talk with their training staff and all that. You got such a sense of like the direction that they were headed. And every single thing he said, we already sat down and talked for about 10, 15 minutes. Everything he said, I was like, man, I want to be a part of this because this team is going to be something special moving forward. And now, granted, I was a free agent. It didn't work out that way. I ended up going to Seattle after that. But, seeing like just his vision and what he was bringing there, you knew it was everything like they needed at that time. And sure enough, now it's really evolved into a Super Bowl trip, what could have been a Super Bowl trip last year,
right?
Had they won the coin toss in overtime. But it's awesome to see, and then really for Chiefs Kingdom too. It's a great fan base, like one of the best out there.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of hype around them right now, of course, for a good reason. Patrick Mahomes has been
quarterback,
lights out. So what do you make of the hype around Patrick Mahomes, and then also sort of the flack that Jimmy Grappolo seems to be just stepping in every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason why Patrick gets so much credit, and rightfully so, is, he's special at whether the play was working or not. He can make something out of the play and something, out of nothing. With Jimmy, it's more if he works within the confines of the offense. And so you kind of sometimes feel like, and there's probably a lot of people out there who sit back in the chair and they're watching, I could do that. I can make that throw. And I think that's where they're underestimating like how good Jimmy has played this year and like how tough it is to play quarterback in the NFL. But I think
you would know a thing or two about that.
Yeah. And I think it speaks to just the contrast between the two players. I mean, Patrick he's an entirely different talent. Like we've never seen something like him in the NFL. Like you're talking about a generational talent as far as his arm ability and just the way he processes and sees the game. Mm-hmm. It's very rare.
Now, outside of the Super Bowl stories, today Jay Glazer mentioned that the Chargers are reportedly moving on from Phillip Rivers. What do you think happens next?
I think the tough thing is they're strapped for cash, right? They have been selling PSLs for the new stadium, so they don't have a ton of money. They're going to have a hard time signing back some of their free agents too, which makes it tough to then go get someone like Tom Brady, right? And you try to connect the dots because really the last time we could look at like an iconic quarterback in Peyton, when he became a free agent, he was able to look around. He kind of went through all his visits and ended up selecting the Denver Broncos. This could be a similar scenario where Tom does that, and I think if you look at the Chargers roster, granted there's going to be some changes, that would be very attractive, and especially considering he's a California guy, and I believe he's got a home in L.A. So it may make some sense to go to the Chargers, and it may be good for them to be able to sell more seats, more tickets, etc., in that new stadium, and it kind of create more buzz, more hype.
Right, and then, of course, with Phillip Rivers moving to Tampa accordingly, maybe he
might. Do we know it's Tampa?
It's somewhere in Florida. I mean, where are we right now?
It's a big state. It's a big state.
I'm learning that. We thought we were across the street
Florida?
From the convention center, which there's actually water.
Which in like Tampa's like its whole the west coast of Florida is so different than the east coast.
Yeah.
And then like Jacksonville, it's not even Florida. That's south of Georgia.
I don't know where.
They just don't know it
where
yet.
that is. I'm Canadian, so I can say I don't know where that is.
That's terrible.
But moving on to something you do know, Cleveland Browns. They now just hired their general manager Andrew Berry today.
He's younger than both of us.
Is he?
I don't know. How old are you?
No, I'm 32.
How many years young? He's 32. You're same age.
You were like, okay, you just got that.
I phrased it right.
And then they also hired their head coach last week. And what do you like? You've been in that organization. Like, why is it such a house of horrors?
Because of ownership. Now, granted, ownership has changed over since I was there. You know, I think if you go back and look at the Lerner family, when Al Lerner owned the team, entirely different. You know, when Al Lerner passed away, his son Randy inherited it, and Randy, you know, it's not his fault. You know, when your father owns a team and he dies, it gets passed down to you. It's like, all right, I'm gonna try to do the best I can, and I just don't know that he really was as passionate about it. Now, Jimmy Haslam's extremely passionate about it. He's now their owner. He's the majority owner, but you know, he just unfortunately has not been able to allow any of these coaches, any of the front office executives, any time to be there. I mean, this is the second coach now that's been one and done under his tenure since, 2012? It's just a bad look. Like, I don't know how any you know, job or any company could have this much turnover and expect to ever have success. So it starts at the top, and it's always about a power play. You know, this is it's funny. Paul DePodesta, I don't know how many people know him. People always talk about Moneyball, the Oakland Athletics, that movie. Well, Paul DePodesta was like some of the brains behind that. That's the guy he's got control of this organization now. He's in the ear of Jimmy Haslam. He's convinced them that the combination of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry, who's this young, bright, budding star Ivy League guy, are going to be able to come in and get this thing headed in the right direction. The problem with that is, a year from now, like if it doesn't work, like then who's he firing? Paul DePodesta? Because these are all his guys. It's a never-ending cycle because there's no continuity. There's no like foundation set. You know, you're like knocking down a house to rebuild it, and then you keep making changes over and over and over again with your architect. I'm sure,
and also Baker Mayfield's just a bit of a loose cannon sometimes.
You know, he just has to mature a little bit.
He does.
Like,
he does.
Like that's the only thing. I think he's gonna be a great player. He's a franchise quarterback. He's gonna be the future there. If they just give him a little bit more help up front on the offensive line, and I think if they set a structure around him where like Stefanski doesn't allow him to always just do and say whatever he wants, like I think it's going to be good for him.
Okay, so he's probably heard a lot of trash talking, and maybe you have dished out some of your own. I know I've tried. Sometimes when people trash talk, they say like the weirdest things, or like you hear them and you're like, what is that? Like there's just it's very creative, and so we wanted to give you an opportunity to play our game, Chirp in the Blanks. It's very, very good.
Okay.
It's a highly, highly rated game. So what we're going to do is kind of like Mad Libs.
Okay.
Where I'm going to ask you, you know, a noun or different things, and then you tell me it, and we're going to have you read it to the camera. Okay? All right. Synonym for beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Famous work of art.
Mona Lisa.
Adjective for not smart.
Ignorant.
Okay. So you're going to read this to the camera, okay?
This is where my attorney gets involved, isn't it? Yeah, okay. I'm going to say this on camera. You guys are probably going to get sued. Okay, here we go. Hey, Jimmy G, you're too gorgeous for football. We want to watch the NFL on Sundays, not the Mona Lisa. Just handing off the ball. Stop being so scared to get hit. You ignorant model. What is this like a New England accent?
That's some fighting words.
Is this a New England accent?
That is some fighting words. Okay, we would love to get to more. We don't have as much time as we wanted to. Thank you so much, Brady, for joining us. Make sure watch him on CBS Sports HQ. He's also on Fox's college football broadcast, Big Noon, and SiriusXM. We're going to have a whole lot more. We got so many more guests, so much more fun. Stay tuned. Call it a night. Hey everyone, JSB here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Fubo Sports on YouTube, or else I guess you could watch puppy videos. That sounds good.